Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Unorthodox Vegan. My name is Sean Gold. In this episode 57, we're going to be making challah. We're making a vegan challah, which is a water challah. Challah is the traditional bread that's used on the Sabbath and for various other Jewish occasions. So this is what I'm going to be trying to do today. This is one of the most ambitious projects I've ever taken on because I'm not one that bakes bread, and so this is going to be new for me. And also because it takes a lot of time for it to rise because this is yeast based and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a long one for me. If you watched last week's one on making pumpkin pie, that was a lot of steps involved with making everything from the cutting up the pumpkin, roasting it, to making the puree, then to make the crust, and then to make the whipped cream after on top of it. So that was a lot of work because a lot of different steps. But this one's only got a few steps, but it just takes time. There's a lot of time involved in it, letting the dough rise. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. First off, I'm going to put in 1¼ cups of room temperature water. By the way, I'm using a recipe that I found on Leon. It's called Leon's Bread. And I thought, yeah, this one looked the most interesting of all the ones. And I saw a number of different recipes. So I'm going to do that. So 1¼ cups of room temperature water, 1 tablespoon of yeast. And we'll see how this one goes. And 1/3 cup of sugar. So that's what we're going to be putting in here now. And just putting that in now. And then I'll be whisking that together. After I do that, it's going to sit for about 3 or 4 minutes and let this all start to work together on its own, the magic of the yeast and the water and the sugar. So we'll let that sit for about 3 minutes, and I'll be right back. Well, it's not quite as foamy as I thought it was going to be, so I'm a little bit concerned about the yeast. But you know what? It's got a little bit of foam there, so we'll go with that. Okay, next up. So we've had the 1/3 cup of sugar with the tablespoon of yeast and a cup and a quarter of warm water. So I'm going to put in 1/3 cup, of a neutral oil. I'm just using canola oil for that, and I'm going to whisk that around a little bit just to get that mixed together. And then I'm going to add in 5 cups of flour and a tablespoon of salt, of just regular table salt. A tablespoon of kosher salt, it says, but you know what? I'm just using table salt. I'm going to go with that. So putting in 5 cups of flour. This is just a regular unbleached flour, regular all-purpose flour. And that should be 5. Let's get that last bit in there. Okay, 5 cups of flour and a tablespoon of, it says kosher salt. My kosher salt's very coarse. I don't know if I want to put that in there. I'm just going to go with regular iodized salt and a tablespoon of that. All right. Now I'm just going to mix that together. Now, it's suggested using a wooden spoon to do that, so I'm just using this wooden paddle that I have for making sushi, and I'm going to mix that, and I'm going to just do this. I'm going to come back in just a minute when I finish mixing it up. So I mixed that together using the spoon a little bit, and now it's just getting in there with my hands and getting in there to make sure that I'm removing any of the dry streaks with the dough. They said it should be a little shaggy, but we're going to make sure it's all mixed in. And don't want to overwork it, but I want to make sure it's all mixed in. And then I'm going to put a cover over this and let it rise. And this is going to be the first rising of this. And I'm just going to let this is only a short one. This is to let it autolyze or sit at room temperature for 10 minutes. And that is the first one. Then there's 2 more risings that are involved in this whole process. So it's going to be a little bit of waiting time. But fortunately, you don't have to wait. You're going to get to see it. I'm going to skip through and not make you watch the entire thing. So I'm just getting some of this stuff. They said it's going to be a little shaggy. It is. I just want to make sure it's mixed in there, pinched in there as much as possible. And then I'm going to cover it up, and I'll be back in a bit. I let that dough sit in the bowl covered with a plastic wrap according to the recipe instructions for 10 minutes. And now I'm just going to knead the dough for about 5 to 7 minutes until it becomes a nice smooth surface. It's a little bit shaggy right now still. It's not sticky. I just want to make sure that it's got a nice smooth surface. And I'm going to be kneading this and for about 5 to 7 minutes or whatever it takes until it gets that nice clean surface. And then I'm going to, you can feel it coming together right now already. Just need some serious kneading. I have oiled that pan. I've cleaned that bowl out, and I've put a little bit of the canola oil in it. I have kneaded this thing, so I'm just going to put that ball into that slightly oiled pan, covered back up with some plastic wrap. And I'm going to let this sit for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So probably let it go. And it's should be doubling in size, I believe, is what we should be looking for. It's doubled in size, so hopefully that will work for it. I'm just going to let that sit and put it on the stove and let that sit. There's no heat on it, so it's just going to be sitting there and hopefully rising. Back in a couple of hours. It has been a little over an hour and a half. I'm just going to grab the bowl of dough, which has risen nicely. And I am going to now take it out. I'm going to cut that in half. I'm going to cut this in half and divide that half into 3 parts for the individual braids for the challah. So let me just get this thing. I'm going to be making 2 challahs just in case you were wondering what's going on here. So let me just divide this up into 3 somewhat equal pieces. I don't know if that's quite equal. That looks a little bigger than the other ones. Let's do this one. Okay, I'll just get these out of the way for a minute. I'll be doing the second one first, or second one later. So each of these gets rolled out into about a foot long, about 12, 14 inches long. Okay, I've got these rolled out. Okay, let's just join these ends together here. And we're going to do the braiding. And I got to tell you, I'm not a braider. I didn't have to do the girls' hair when they were young, so I'm not an expert at this, but it should be just a simple matter of over and over and over and over and over. So just going to get that, and that's going to be 1 loaf. I'm going to put that on the cookie baking sheet. I'm going to make up another one. I'm not going to make you watch this, so I'll be back in that. And that. And then that. Get that together. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be covering this in plastic wrap. I'm going to first spray the plastic wrap with a little bit of oil, and so it doesn't stick to it. I'm going to cover it up with this plastic wrap after I've sprayed it with the oil side down, and I will just let it sit there and go into a proof rise for another hour and a half. All right, this has been sitting here for about 1.5 hours, almost 2 hours, but I've just uncovered the challahs, and I have some maple syrup, and we're going to do a little bit of a basting of it because I want there to be a nice shiny surface, and there's various options, egg being one. I'm not going to use egg. One of them being a nut milk, and I guess there's other options. I didn't quite catch all of them. But this one looked nice, and who wouldn't like maple syrup? So what the heck? I do a little bit of maple syrup on the top, and then this is going in the oven. I've already heated up the oven to 350 degrees. It's going to go in there for 40 minutes, but at halfway mark, I'm going to take these buns out, or these loaves out, and I'm going to put another layer of the maple syrup on top of that. And just want to make sure it gets a really nice, shiny, delicious surface. I might sprinkle some sesame seeds on top of that too. We'll see how that goes. See what I feel. All right, I've taken it out of the oven after the first basting. This is after 20 minutes. It's already turned a nice, beautiful golden color. As you can see, I'm just going to put another, I'm going to put another layer of the maple syrup on it to get it nice and brown. And I'm going to put some sesame seeds on it. I like that idea. So let's just get this on there. Nice wash on this. And make sure I get all the spots. Okay. And a little bit of sesame seeds. There we go. And back in the oven. They're out of the oven. They've gone through the second coating, and they look absolutely lovely. Okay, I'm just going to tear off a little bit. I hate doing this when it's not on Friday night, but I just want to do a little tearing off of it, and we'll do a little taste test. So there's just tearing off an end. Oh, crusty. Got a nice crust on it. Nice and light. Just absolutely delightful. My first shot at making bread, real bread. This is a water hollow. It's absolutely delicious. Okay, that works. And there you have it, episode 57, making challah, water challah. So there's no egg involved. It has a little bit of maple syrup on the outside with the sesame seeds. It looks lovely. It just looks gorgeous. So there you have it. Again, if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me on my through email on my email account, which is vrcompanions@gmail.com, just showing up here. And please follow me on my YouTube channel. That's www.youtube.com/@the_unorthodox vegan. Until next time, have yourself a great day. Bye for now.